So, this week in class, I learned whether or not I'll still be here next year. I learned about social stuff, right? Like parties and things like that. I was off this week and I had a teacher nightmare. Hang around and let's talk about it. All right. So now this will be the plan is for this to be quick. Technically, it shouldn't be quick, right? Because I had a whole week off to record a show, but it never happened. But it's all good. So So first, had an event at the school, that they have weekly where it's just we can kind of as teachers kind of connect and talk, right? And, people were asking me because, everybody knows I'm a new teacher. Some people see me going through that transition as being a new teacher. It's not pretty. It's rough. Right. And they're like, oh, so you're still going to be around next year. And I'm like, well, yeah, and they're like, you still going to do second grade? And it made me, just kind of it did two things. One, so my answer was, well, so the first year is just the first year. It's just something that has to be gotten through. And you can't really make great decisions about how much you like the job or how good you are at it. Will you be next year? It's difficult to make, or even do you like the grade you're teaching? It's difficult to make those decisions. Now, I will say, A, I like teaching. B, definitely intend to be there. C, I do like teaching second grade. I have no desire to go anywhere else, even though I just said you can't make those decisions right now. But for you as a new teacher, you can't. You do what you want. You're an adult, right? But quitting right now at the hardest part, you don't know if it's really something that you're capable of, until you get over that hump. So it's like you got to get through that part, that uncomfortable part where it just feels awful. You have to get through that before you can really say, okay, now that I know what I'm doing and I have a grasp of it, I don't want to do it anymore. Or I do want to do it. I do want to continue it. It's just hard to say when you first start, And I think it's also funny how sometimes things look on the outside versus how they look on the inside, right? Because whatever it looks like to people, they're like, oh my gosh, is this dude gonna stay? And I'm like, listen, it's frustrating. There are things that are difficult about it, but I don't want to leave. But yeah, that's interesting that people see things that way, but hey, also just moving on to those social things, those work things. And I think I've said it before. It's weird for me because, okay, so not only, all right, I'm gonna jump around a little bit. I've noticed that in the workplace, it's kind of a different culture than it used to be. Like I've noticed that people curse at work. Like I've been to, it's just Walmart. No one's angry. They're actually just talking to their coworker, and they're cursing, or talking about things that are maybe mildly inappropriate. There's a shift because there was a point in time when that was just a no-no, total no-no, right? So being in a school atmosphere, that's just something that it does not happen at all, right? So when I'm at these social events, it's kind of like, okay, how am I supposed to be? And there's this weird mix. And I think for me also, having worked, on my own for quite some time, I don't always know like what's okay, like how honest can I be, how much mache can I be in an off the clock type situation, so I'm still working with that. I know people say things like, oh, work is work. You go to work, you come home, that's it. You don't worry about making friends. But if I have to be there for a significant part of my life and my day, why would I not try to create a positive environment? And I know you can't trust everybody. And I know that, for some reason, in this profession, there seems to be a lot of sabotage, and people will throw you under the bus to get a leg up, which, what does that mean? When you don't get a bigger paycheck, I don't get it. But still, I'm just a big believer in trying to create the world in which I want to live, and not just going to work and walling myself off, and just really trying to worry about living when I get home. I really want to live my whole life, so, I got to be wise about it, but that is maybe a bit of a some landmines that I got to figure out. If you got any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them. How do you kind of manage having a full life, right? Even when you're at work, because I know some people are fans of go to work, go home. That's it. I don't want to do that. I want to enjoy life at work as well as life at home, right? So what do you do to kind of make that happen, right? I'd be curious to know. So I was off this week, which for a lot of people, that is the biggest draw to being a teacher. A lot of times your kids will ask you when you have just, most regular 9-to-5s, they're off for the summer, and they'll ask you, what are you doing for the summer? And most adults are like, working. What you mean? Right? But when you're a teacher, you do have the opportunity to be off the entire summer, just like the kids are. And that was very different for me. Again, I didn't know. Like, I was trying to figure out, well, when are we off for Thanksgiving? I remember asking, and I found out like the week before that I'm off the whole week. I was like, really? So it's great to recharge. I'm surprised that, am I surprised? It'd be great if more jobs kind of did that, you know what I mean? And not just, well, if you're going to be off, you got to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to take vacation time, because what's great is I'm off this week. Then we got a 3-week drive, and then we're off for the Christmas holiday. So it's pretty cool. While I was off. Now, so one thing I think I reached out to parents once in the middle, and I'm probably going to reach out to them tonight just to kind of prepare for tomorrow, but I think I want to keep that separate. If I'm off, I'm off, and try hard not to do too much or any work at all. One thing I wish, and it is what it is, but I'm off for a week. Like, it would be amazing if they're like, listen, on Monday, school's open, you can come in, you got a shift to do whatever you need to do in your room. Oh, that would have been so amazing, because I'm off and I'm only doing what it is I want to do. And I probably could have made some headway and get my room together, but there are reasons that I don't know and don't understand why I can only do things, during a work day when that's near impossible. But it is what it is. I wish, but I can't. One thing I thought about in terms of what I'm going to do this first week back, and probably the first week back, right when we come back from Christmas break and from spring break, is I'm going to take a day or two to do a rule reset, right? So remind the kids, what the rules are in the classroom, how to walk in line, remind them who we are and how we want to do things, because they forget. So if you jump right into a lesson and you don't take the time to do that, you're going to be redirecting for at least a week or two. You know what I mean? And you're going to waste time and not really get things done. So I'm going to lean into that definitely 2 days, maybe 3 days, depending on what's needed. But hey, you were off, you were gone for a week. Let's get your brains back into learning mode. Let me see. Yep, that's all my stuff. I do want to say that if you are looking for, because I know there's a few things that happen, right? So we got Black Friday, and then we have Cyber Monday, and then there's also Giving Tuesday, right? Where, hey, you bought all your stuff, and is there something that you want the opportunity to give to? So there's a link there in the description to my wish list for my class, right? So if you want to give into something, or someone who wants to, share that link with them. I really appreciate it. Just some things to get for my students, to make life a little bit easier for us. That'd be so appreciated. So either if you want to give, awesome, I appreciate it, or you can share this link with as many people as possible, to kind of share the load. And if you're a teacher, right? If you're a teacher, you don't have to give. What would be so beneficial to me is if you would look at my list and say, well, these are some of the things that I wanted in my classroom that I used, and send me a message, send me a DM, letting me know what things that you had on your wish list that you brought into your classroom. Because again, as a new teacher, I don't always know what I don't know. So there's things that I probably should do that I'm just not even aware of to ask for, or to adjust, or to change. So again, appreciate your help with that. And also in terms of Giving Tuesday, if you wanted to adopt my classroom, that's something that you could do. So that way, instead of buying things on the list, you could actually give money, and it will go into, I basically have like a class wallet, and I could do things for the class, like buy things, specific things, or, if I wanted to reward the class, I would have money to do that, things like that. So if you want to adopt my class, let me know. There's paperwork that I need to send you to do that, and I really appreciate that. All right. Last thing. So this is funny. I think right before I woke up, I was having the weirdest dream, right? So I come back to school, right? It's that morning. It's Monday morning, right? Back to school, off of the holiday. I come in my room, and there's this dude that's just like in my room and walking around. I'm like, why is he walking around my room? What is he doing? And then I realized that I'm in his room, I'm in the wrong room. Oh, sorry. Yeah, he's like, I thought you were here to help me out, whatever that was, right? So then I go to my room, and I start doing one thing. I normally write on the board. I write the day and the date full out, because that's what they write when I give them writing prompts. And then I write like a writing prompt on the board. And we have these I can statements, right? Based on where we are in the curriculum, so like I can subtract numbers within 100, things like that for math, or with literature, I can recognize poetry and this, that, and the other. So I write all that stuff down that may not be written down, or I adjust my date, things like that. So at one point I'm getting my board together, and then they bring this kid in the room, new kid, and he's screaming and yelling about how he does not want me as a teacher and he wants someone else. I'm like, oh, great. So I got a new kid who's not thrilled to be in my class, and they took him out for a second, right? And then when they took him out, my room changed, and instead of desks, there were beds. And I was like, great. This is not gonna work out well at all. So now all the kids, there was like twin beds, and there were like 2 kids in each bed, and they're all in beds. And I'm like, ugh. And then the kid who didn't want to be in my class, he comes back, and at one point he's eating in bed. So there's a whole bunch of food in the bed. So I make him get up, and he didn't want to, but I put my teacher dad voice on, and he got up and he's throwing the trash away. The funny thing is, I woke up and I immediately went to go check my email. so it's Sunday night, right? I will let you know next week if there are beds in my classroom, or anything crazy like that. So that is what I learned this week in class. Signing off, your friendly neighborhood second grade teacher.